It's the last working day of the month. Your payslip lands in your inbox, and you do the thing every British worker does. You skip straight past the gross figure, the big impressive number you tell yourself you earn, and your eyes drop to the bottom line, the net. And every single month, there's that same quiet sting. Where did it all go? Somewhere between gross pay and net pay, HMRC took a slice. Then National Insurance took another. And if you're like most Britons, you have a vague, simmering feeling that you're being taxed into the ground. But here's the uncomfortable question almost nobody actually answers, compared to the rest of the world. Are you really being taxed that much? Today, we're going to find out exactly where you stand on the global tax ladder, and I promise you, some of these numbers will surprise you, in both directions. Let's build the scaffolding first, because in 2026, the UK system works in layers. The first £12,570 you earn is completely tax-free. That's your personal allowance. Above that, you pay the basic rate of 20% on everything up to £50,270. Cross that line, and you're into the higher rate, 40%, all the way up to £125,140. Beyond that, the additional rate takes 45 pence of every extra pound. Now, a common myth. Crossing into a higher band does not mean your whole salary gets taxed at the new rate. Only the slice above the threshold does. Think of your income as water filling a series of buckets. Each bucket has its own tax rate, and the taxman only dips into each bucket at that bucket's rate. Simple enough. But here's where the story turns. Those thresholds I just gave you, they've been frozen since 2022. And in the autumn budget of 2025, the Chancellor extended that freeze all the way to 2031, nearly a decade without moving. Why does that matter? Because of a phenomenon economists call fiscal drag, and it is quietly the biggest tax rise in modern British history, without a single rate ever going up. Picture the tide coming in against a seawall. Your wages are the tide, rising a little every year with inflation. But the tax thresholds are the wall, bolted in place, refusing to move. Every year, the water climbs higher up that fixed wall, and more of your income spills over into the taxed zone. You got a pay rise, your rent went up, your shopping went up, you feel no richer. But on paper, HMRC now sees a higher earner, and taxes you like one. This is how millions of perfectly ordinary workers, teachers, nurses, police sergeants, have been pulled into the 40% bracket. A rate that was once reserved for the genuinely wealthy is rapidly becoming the tax band of the British middle. But even that isn't the full picture, because Britain has a second income tax hiding in plain sight. It's called National Insurance. We tell ourselves NI is different, that it's a contribution, an insurance premium, a little pot for our pension. In practice, it goes into the same government coffers, it's deducted through the same PAYE system, and it hits the same payslip. It is, functionally, a secondary income tax. In 2026, employees pay 8% on earnings between roughly £12,500 and £50,270 and 2% on everything above. So let's do the honest maths. A basic rate taxpayer isn't really paying 20%, they're paying 28%. A higher rate taxpayer isn't paying 40%, they're paying 42%. The headline rates on the news are, frankly, a polite fiction. The real rates live on your payslip. Right. So how do we compare to the rest of the world? Let's start with the country everyone points to, America. On paper, the American worker wins. A software developer in Texas pays federal income tax, but zero state income tax. Their overall tax burden, measured by the OECD, is meaningfully lighter than ours. Cue the usual argument. See, Britain is a tax prison. But hold on, because the American payslip has a line item that ours doesn't, health insurance. The average employer-sponsored family health plan in the United States now costs well over $26,000 a year in total premiums. Even with the employer covering most of it, a typical family can easily find themselves paying many thousands of dollars a year out of their own pocket. Premiums, deductibles, co-pays before a single hospital bill arrives. One serious illness, one complicated birth, one broken leg on a ski trip, and the low tax advantage evaporates. The UK runs an all-in model. Your tax and your NI are the subscription fee, and the NHS, whatever its waiting lists, will never send you a bill for your chemotherapy. The American pays less to the government and more to the market. The question isn't who pays less, it's who pays less in total. Now let's look east, to the so-called high-service nations. And here's where the data gets genuinely surprising. The OECD measures something called the tax wedge, the total slice taken from the average worker, including income tax and social contributions from both employee and employer. In 2025, the OECD average hit 35.1%, the highest in nearly a decade. Germany sat at a staggering 49.3%. Belgium topped the table at 52.5%. Sweden, France, Austria, all far above us. And the United Kingdom. Around 29%, one of the very lowest tax burdens on the average worker in all of Europe. Let that sink in. For the average earner, Britain is not a high-tax country. It's one of the lightest taxed places on the continent. But, and this is the crucial British twist, our system has one of the steepest cliffs in the developed world. We're gentle on low earners, gentle on average earners, and then, the moment you climb into the upper middle, the gradient turns brutal. The OECD itself flags the UK as one of the countries where workers can face marginal rates of 70% or more at specific income levels, which brings us to the most notorious cliff of all. Officially, Britain's top income tax rate is 45%. Unofficially, there's a secret band that's far worse, and the government never prints it on any rate card. Once your income passes £100,000, HMRC starts confiscating your personal allowance. You lose £1 of tax-free allowance for every £2 you earn above the line. So every extra pound gets taxed at 40% and drags previously tax-free income into the net as well. The effective result: between £100,000 and £125,140, your marginal rate of income tax is 60%. Add national insurance, and you're keeping barely 38 pence of every extra pound you earn. A doctor taking on extra shifts, a manager accepting a promotion inside this band. More than half of every additional pound vanishes before it ever reaches them. So how do wealthy Britons respond? Not by evading tax, by legally shrinking their taxable income. 3 tools do most of the heavy lifting. First, pension contributions through salary sacrifice into a SIP, a self-invested personal pension. Money diverted into your pension before tax simply never enters the calculation. Someone earning £110,000 who sacrifices £10,000 into their SIP drops back to the 100,000 line, dodging the 60% trap entirely and reclaiming their full personal allowance in one move. Second, electric vehicle salary sacrifice schemes, leasing an EV from pre-tax salary with a benefit-in-kind rate of just 4% in 2026. It remains one of the cheapest ways for a higher earner to drive a brand new car. And third, the ISA, £20,000 a year, growing completely free of tax on interest, dividends, and gains, forever. It won't lower this year's income tax bill, but it quietly builds a future income stream that HMRC can never touch. The wealthy don't pay the headline rate, they engineer their effective rate. And every one of these tools is available to you too. So, are you overtaxed? Here's the honest answer. If you're an average earner, you're paying less than almost anyone in Europe. If you're in the upper middle, you're standing on one of the steepest tax cliffs in the developed world. But the final question was never really about the percentage. It's about what economists call the social wage. Everything you receive without a bill, the GP appointment, the state pension, the schools, the roads. The American buys those things at the till. The German pays far more up front. The Briton sits somewhere in between. So next payday, when your eyes drop to that net figure, don't just ask what was taken, ask what it bought. Because in the end, the smartest taxpayers aren't the ones who complain about the system, they're the ones who understand it. If you learned something, make sure to like and hit subscribe. See you in the next one.